Welcome back to another episode of Naturally Tones, guys. So, rent. And I mean, rent. Rent is such well, for me, it was a need. For me, it was a need. Like, I wanted to, at the time, get out there with my partner at the time and just really see what living on our own would have been like. The truth is, you never really know somebody till you live with them, You never know somebody till you live with them. So we were at a point where, things like get really, really serious. And see, I live with the man, and as someone knows that it wasn't for me. But I did learn a lot about renting and, things that I needed to really look out for when I was choosing a apartment or even a house. And of course, I'm going to share it with you guys. No, first things first, ignore the pinky. Like, yes, we know it gone. Don't judge me. Don't judge me, guys. The nails, them so redo. Them so redo. So if you want to hear tips on looking for the right place to rent, stay tuned. Okay, so full disclaimer, guys, I have been in my purchase home for almost a year. So prices may have changed from what I'm referring to, but I think the technique and the methods are still the same. So just throwing that out there when you're taking my advice. So one of the first things you want to think about when you're, deciding if you want to rent is if you're going unfurnished or furnished. Now, there are some pros and cons with both. For me, my first apartment was semi-furnished, and then the second apartment when we rented was actually unfurnished. Now, the semi-furnished or even furnished apartment is a good choice if it is that you don't have any assets for yourself, right? So if it's a case where, or sometimes if you're coming from a different country, so if you're coming from a different country, or in a Jamaican terms, if you come from a different parish, right? Sometimes you may not want logo with all of the things them. So doing it that way would probably work out best for you. So when they say semi-furnished or furnished, that usually means that it will come with like a fridge, a stove, a couch, a bed frame, sometimes just a bed bottom, not the actual bed. So you probably may have to buy your own bed. And a basic either chest or drawer or vanity area, right? So it will come with like basics like that. Some of them are on the higher end, so you'll get the TV, you'll get appliances, you get a lot of stuff. What you have to note though is that when you get an apartment that's semi-furnished or furnished, is that you are responsible for the upkeep of the items in that household. So it can easily cut into your security deposit when you're leaving if something was left broken, if something, wear and tear over time. So it's just something to really consider, right? Now, when it comes to moving into somewhere that is completely unfurnished, you have to have your own things then. You have to have your own things then. So with that, no, there is some amount of, in fact, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of, getting your space to look the way you want it to look. But then there are things that you have to consider, like the different outlets that are there will determine the type of, washing machine that you get, the type of stove that you get. There's also restrictions that may come with wherever it is that you are renting. So you want to take that into consideration before investing all that money into those larger appliances, right? So some basic stuff that you could, of course, get is like a bed bottom, a bed, a small chest of drawers or vanity, and then just keep in mind that all these things that you buy them if it fits in the apartment. So you're gonna have to be looking for an apartment with the size in mind if it is that you have the furniture already, or sometimes it's better to just wait till you pay down that deposit and then go out and buy your furniture because it doesn't take long to get it. So whichever way, something to definitely consider. No, my first experience looking for a home, no, I didn't know that you had to walk with your money. Like I thought that okay, you pick up, you can like look at a few places, and then from there you can decide, okay, am I like this one, am I like this one, yeah, and then you can probably call the person next day and confirm that you're going forward with the place. No, it don't work like that. Not out here. Especially if it's a place that's like really good. So like I remember me and my partner at the time, we went to this really nice house, like one of those houses that you not go find. Like it was behind Duane Park, like up, like almost up one hill kind of, and it was so remote, grassy, lush. Like it was giving country without being in the country. And the rent at the time was ideal. He was like 50,000 a month. It was like a 3-bedroom place. It was really, really nice. And we wanted to see some other places throughout the day to decide. So even though we had our security deposit, which is usually um 50, it's usually 2 months rent. So some people have 2 months rent, some people have 1 month rent, and then they want you to pay the month that you're moving into as well. So I guess it just depends on their arrangement. But at the time it was just okay, so you paid on 100,000, so that will cover your first month's rent and 50,000 for your security deposit. So we left that place thinking, all right, well, we'll come back later, whatever. And we spent the whole day looking at homes and whatever. And then at 9 o'clock, keep in mind, we look at this place about 10 o'clock, By 9 p.m., when we called back the landlord, he was like, oh, it's gone. Heartbroken. Heartbroken. And trust me, this happened like several times. Like it was just like not the vibe. Not the vibe. So with that experience in mind, we always work with the figure that's quoted in the paper, because it was the paper that we were using, times two, right? Because it's not everybody. That's the next thing. Not every landlord depend this bank transfer argument. None of them want them cash and them unmingle. So that was something that we learned to work with. And to be honest, guys, I wish Jamaica wasn't like that, because it's not safe to walk up and know so much money. You can imagine you have like 130,000, 150,000 on you just like that, and you walk to all these places, all these communities, and you're looking young, you're looking impressionable, and our man just decided today's the day. Like, yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. So make sure when you walk with the bag and walk good, especially not in the holiday season. Now, there's so many options in Jamaica to really find a place to rent. Word of mouth that if you have friends or a circle of people that share those type of messages, especially in Phoenix Park Village too, because everybody's buying homes or have bought their homes here. We tend to know who is renting before they even advertise. So even knowing someone in a new development, if it is that you want to live in that development before, then it's good to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in renting. So if anybody in your scheme says that they're renting, please let me know. So that's a great way. Even some people would recommend that you live in certain developments before you commit. Jamaica don't really have that kind of flexibility there in terms of like, oh, because you live there, you're guaranteed to buy a house in the area. But I mean, if right now you don't have the capital to buy the house, there's nothing wrong with living in the area to see if it's really the right area for you, right? Another avenue to really finding a good place for rent is, of course, the paper. Now you have the Gleaner Classifieds, which is, ride or die paper. I'm not sure if papers on the West, like Western Mirror and those, are really good for finding places just like in Kingston and Portmore. But don't write them up, because if you don't come from Kingston and Portmore and you want to move to a more, remote area, then the Western Mirror isn't a bad purchase as well. And then, of course, Gleaner actually has their listings online as well, but the update is not necessarily instantaneous. So it's better for you just to go out and find the paper man. My recommendation is to buy the paper on Saturday and Sunday. And the best times to buy the paper for me when I was looking is at the end of the month and the start of the month. So those 2 weeks, those 2 weekends, you buy the paper, right? Usually see the best listings at that point. And then you hit the phones. You call to the week. And then set your appointment. And the last option is, of course, a real estate agent. Now, you have a lot of different real estate agencies around. Century 21, Coldwell Banker, even some of the banking sites like VMBS, for example, they will have listings on rented properties because of their real estate arm. So you can check out all those avenues as well. But those fees tend to be a lot higher, especially because that person would have roped in a realtor to push their places. It's just that the good thing, or something I've noticed, is that you'll find more high-end properties for rent when you go through those agencies. So if you're looking for something a little bit more high-end, you're not looking for somewhere where might be no one gets on you nobody know, then that will give us more details if you go through real estate. So you're at the point now where you have, you are in the different apartments or houses, and you're trying to decide if this is the right space for you. So separate and apart from fitting all your furniture in, or if the furniture look good, you want to check a few things, right? Because these are things that I never thought to check until after. And what you find, is that them mouth sweet, when them try to get to buy, to invest or rent the place, But you see, when you start living there good, all of a sudden nothing can fix. So my recommendation to you guys, if they said they have an AC unit there, turn it on and make it run a little bit. Why? Because I remember the place that I moved into in Kingston. When I decided to use that AC because my mom came to look for me, the dust would fly out of it, and it, you ever hear brought down care with the carburetor and listen, I saw the AC sound, and it was one hullabaloo for get it to fix. Like no, whenever like these things you can tell them from before that you need it to be fixed, right? Another thing I'd recommend you to check, of course, is the mesh. So not all places come with mesh on them window. And if them say come with mesh, check all of them. Check all of them because enough time. So like, for example, the same place that I was living in, it mesh everywhere, but the bathroom window and the kitchen window. Now you tell me if that makes sense. Tell me if that makes sense. Because if anywhere else, the kitchen for sure. Because the fly them in a Kingston, guys. Especially when I cook my little good Sunday dinner and stuff. The fly them not nice. So when they might tell you, oh, it has all mesh and it has AC, and yeah, I want to make sure and check that. Next thing I want to check. Sometimes they will say, oh, there's like a security system or whatever. Check it. Make sure it says it works. Make sure it says it's connected. Ask them how it is that it's connected and how it is that you can have access to it. Because again, the same place, which I will not name on this channel, the button now work. Press the button, the remote fall apart. You ask for a replacement, you can't find it. So there was no real security setup. They were like, oh, they're gonna install cameras and all residents will have the opportunity to like see around their place. Yeah, it never happened. It never keep. So yeah. Another thing you wanna check for sure is where do you throw your garbage? So some places they will say, okay, in fact, they're not even going to put that in the listing. They're not going to put that in the listing. This is something that people overlook all the time. So like one apartment that I used to stay, because I was on the 3rd floor, the garbage, like, of course, you can't keep it in the apartment, right? So the garbage was actually like down the road. So just know, say, you either go throw it in the back of your car and drive down the road with it, or you go make up your mind, say, you go smell the garbage and walk. You know, so I mean, that was just like an ick for me. It may not bother you, but it was an ick for me for sure. You want to ask also about water issues in that community and if they have a tank and if the tank is connected. Because again, another place that I will stay, guys, I've had so many stories about rent. It's a mess. Another place I was staying, they had 4 tanks, 4 tanks. I mean, I said, whoa, no, this is rich. This is good. None of the tank them connected. Not one of them connected. So when the water gone, every resident after go on and back with them with them pail and them bucket, a ton and pipe. Like, people, check these things. Please don't be like me. Check these things. You want also check, like it's just coming up as I'm going, right? You want to also check the cupboard. So if they have cupboard, especially if it's made out of wood, you want to check it. Check for the chichi them. Check for the chichi them, guys, because you don't want to put your things them in there and then infest the whole place with chichi. Like, check the crown moldings, check the cupboards, check the closet, check all these wooden areas for chichi. And how you spot chichi is usually like if you're seeing it looks like sawdust, dust, like wooden dust particles, like near that area, right? So ensure that they fumigate the place before you move in there and sort out them chichi problem before, because like where another place that I was renting, they had to pull down all the crown moldings, fix the place, and then install it. And that didn't affect my start date for rent. So you wanna check all these things. You wanna check all these things because these people, them are con artists, them just wanna make a quick money, Them just wanna know so them have money come in them account every month. And while I'm not here for nobody hustle, them do what them have to do. But you're people too, you're somebody too. So don't make none of them trick on when it comes to renting these places because sometimes it's really not giving premium. It's not giving premium. And as I mentioned before, you want to check the limitations. So for example, there are some apartments, especially in Kingston, that you can only use electric stove. Like you can't use gas stove in the place. No, me as a girl will love our gas stove. I'm sorry, I don't know what is, me grow up on gas stove. I don't know, the electric stove, me and JPS, me just not really try to be them best friend. Me not try to be them best friend. So that's something when we look out for, right? So those things can be like deciding factors for you as well when checking to see. And another thing, I know I keep saying another thing, don't judge me. Another thing that you should check for, just ask them casually, about the type of people that live in if it is the apartment, if it is the scheme, you want to have an idea of the type of people, especially if you're not from that area. So like I came from Portmore. Even though I went to school all my life in Kingston, like I didn't live in Kingston. So it's just because my dad is like one of those people that like really knows his stuff when it comes to knowing different areas, that I knew that certain areas I would just flat out avoid even looking at places to rent from there. But for the places that you are considering, you want to know not only like if that area is known for violence late at night. You want to know if the street lights them at work. So you want to do a little drive around as well, of that property to just see what it's like at nighttime, because daytime is one thing, nighttime is another thing. Another thing you want to know. So like if you're someone who has kids, for example, you'd want to know that there are probably families with kids as well in that community. It's not that you can't, of course, rent somewhere that has people that don't have babies. Not saying no, but I mean it can impact your decision, because you would want your kids to be in an environment where people will look out for them if anything go wrong, right? So these are just some few things you wanna check. And biggest of all, I mentioned it before, but just in case, you want to know how it is that you pay the rent. Do I pay bank transfer? Do you come to my yard and knock on the gate? Like, how it go? Because that can also be a big deciding factor, as to, the home that you choose. And last but not least, you want to know how often is the rent increased, right? So you want to know if the rent being increased, if it's like a yearly thing, because legally they can increase it by 7%. So I mean, they can't, and like you can't go to court and say, oh, them raise my rent and whatever. No, like legally they can. Every year they can increase your rent by 7%. However, there are some persons that are a lot more lenient than others, So, it wouldn't hurt to ask them, hey, how often, do you increase your rent, that kind of thing. So that way you kind of gauge how long you need to stay, or if it's somewhere you can kind of put on roots for a little while. Some things that I would, add to the already long list of checking, guys, you need to check the faucet them. All of the faucet them, you need to make sure so the water run. The water needs to be running. The water needs to be running. If them say them have hot and cold water, you want to check the hot and cold water. If it is that them have sliding doors, slide the door back and forth, make sure it's at work. I remember moving into this apartment, and like when I said the bathroom looks so stunning, I was like, oh, this is doing what it needs to do, man. Sliding door, walk-in shorts, giving premium. No, it was not giving premium. It was not giving premium because what happened? The door couldn't slide. So for the entire time of me living there, I had to just have the doors in a way that I could just walk out and walk in. Like, in fact, that same place, there was a closet, but no metal thing for you to actually hang your clothes. And Good Bobs at first was gonna be like, oh, you need to buy it yourself. No, that's not gonna work for me. You want me to pay X amount of money at one time, and me must still pay for sort out your please sort it out, ma'am. Sort it out. And she attempted to cheap it out too, cheap it out with some plastic something and two tools it dropped down. Cause me have enough clothes. So that had to get fixed pronto. You see, when you're just moving, when you just pay a security deposit, that's when all your demands, them can probably do then. But you see, when you're there for extended period of time, 6 months, 7 months, a year, that's when these landlords, landladies, all of a sudden, them have blindness. Them can't help you. They're looking at you like, if you want to stay, stay. If you want to leave, leave. Yeah, so make sure you know all this, the window them. As I said, we don't check the mesh them, we talk about the mesh, but you want to make sure that the sliding windows, they can slide, that if them wind up, them can wind up. You want to check all these things. Because again, it's gonna affect your security deposit when you want to leave. All of a sudden, all these defects that you found, they're gonna say, oh, but that didn't happen before. It was fine. You didn't say anything. So please talk up. Don't make them go on. No. So now you've rented the property. Yay! Your boss, you have your own place now. The spare key, right? Now, especially if you're like me who live by yourself, it doesn't hurt to entrust your spare key with someone, that you really, really trust. So like for me, it's my parents. Like my parents had my spare key. Why? Because me, the girl, we lose our key. And you lose your key, you can't get back in. So my landlord, they're foreign, like Nobody can help you, sis. And then if you break that lock, you have to go pay to fix it back. So, that spare key, I'm not the girl that leaves it on the no flower spot or leave it in a one corner for somebody come, sis, I'm going to leave it. Like, me not going to do that. I will leave it with somebody else. But it's always good to cut an extra set of keys. Even if you're going to store it somewhere else, probably in your car, probably in a drawer at work. I don't know, store it somewhere else if it is that you don't trust nobody to keep it. Because the worst thing can happen is that you lock out of your own place, especially if it's like a gated community where you have like the automatic gate rather than you just telling security your name and moving in. So yeah, be careful. Thank you so much for watching another video of Naturally Tones, guys. I really hope this is gonna help you in your renting journey. And there's some things in there that I think you can use for your home buying journey as well. All right, so thank you so much, and I hope you guys didn't miss me too much. I'm gonna keep the videos coming. Comment below with all the things that you need me to talk about, share about, because we're keeping the home content alive. Subscribe, follow, share. Until next time, bye.